Wanted to give a quick response to a person who just shot me a message asking about happiness and the problem of feeling insecure about not being sure regarding what to do and how to live a life. And they seem to be caught in this paradox of wanting to know what to do with life but not being sure, and then not wanting to be dogmatic about things, but then if one doesn't accept any kind of dogmatism, what to do, right? The person was sort of suggesting, well, I'm sort of stuck between not knowing what to do and being irrelevant and being uncertain about everything, or just dogmatically doing things, but then I don't really know if what I'm doing is right, and then I have doubts, and then I'm stuck with just this sort of listless hovering in a kind of doubt. I don't have a real, you know, in a bottle solution for something like that, but I do think the person who I would recommend that people look at, if you haven't looked at, the person, certainly other people read a lot of his stuff, but Alan Watts, I have a bunch of books here, and some that I would recommend. He's got a little book here on meditations. Meaning of Happiness is a pretty fun book of his. Does It Matter? Again, sort of the relationship to materiality and modern consumerism, things like that. Psychotherapy, East and West. Here you find very interesting parallels that Watts gives between Eastern thought, Western thought. He also talks a little bit about sanity in the sense of general semantics, and again, very interesting stuff here. The one that I recommend the most, I don't have as colorful of a picture. My hardback is here. My softback's up at school. Is called The Wisdom of Insecurity. I think The Wisdom of Insecurity is, from my perspective, probably Watts' best book, and I have about 40 or so of his books. The argument would say something like this: that the desire to be secure and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. The desire to be secure and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. So that if you try to be secure, you will just feel insecurity because you're already, you know, at a lower level, assuming or asserting the lack of security in the desire to be secure. The same could be said when you try to control the thing that's controlling. To try to control the thing that's controlling is to already suggest or assume that you're not already in control. The way to get rid of the desire to be secure is just lay back and laugh and not, you can't, but you don't need to worry about it. I mean, fortunately, you're not who you think you are. You're much older and other than that. I mean, you're a place and moment of the universe. Try to control your breath. You can try to control your breath, and you can get a regulated sense of your breathing, and you may try to calm yourself down, but fortunately, when you stop thinking about your breath, it just picks up on its own autonomous accord. There is a larger you than that self-conscious reflective I who you would, quote, try to make happy or make secure or somehow assure something like a certainty for. This indubitable certainty that you're looking for, that itself might be part of the problem. To look for it is to already have suggested that it hasn't been found. There's a great, I think it's Morris Cohen, who tells the story of the young man about, learning about Descartes, and he learns that this cogito actually becomes a problematic thing for Descartes, and he makes this appeal to God, and it doesn't really make sense. And the young man realizes this, and he starts to think about the cogito, and he says, he couldn't eat, can't sleep. Finally, goes up to the professor, and he says, "Professor, do I exist?" And the professor says, "Who wants to know?" And there is a sense in which, we are the light that illuminates, and also the thing seen through the illumination. The problem is that we oftentimes think of ourselves as one of those or the other of those. I think it's very easy to think that I am just a source of light and I'm not the world out there. I think it's also very easy to think that the world out there is sort of really all that I am, that the light itself doesn't really exist. It's a sort of epiphenomena. But there is both the distance between the knower and the known, and then the relation between them that gathers them back up again. And I think there's a wisdom in insecurity, to realize that deep down there isn't any security, that's not a bad thing. It seemed like a bad thing only when you were imagining that there was someone who could be secured. There isn't. You're obviously. I mean, it's the person who is fearful of the uncertainty is actually smuggling in an unquestioned assumption, which is that there could be a person there who could be secured, who would be outside of the flow of time. The more that one clings to the idea of a self independent of experience or outside of the experience, the more that that problem gets magnified. So I hope that that helps. Thanks.